Hey, what's up everybody? Eden's on the mic and I am back with another One Piece discussion. But before we get started, as always, if you want to help out with that YouTube algorithm, be sure to hit the like on the video. And if you're interested in more of this content, make sure you also hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so that you're updated on all new content that drops. Now with that out the way, on to the video. So today, I want to talk about some of the biggest topics that's been going around recently due to some of the amazing stuff Oda gave us in chapter 1010, and that is Luffy, Zoro, and their potential growth in Conquerors Haki. We're also going to be talking about some Shanks and how he fits into all of this as well, because with the reveal of the capabilities of Conquerors Haki and how it can be utilized in combat has now opened the door to a number of possibilities. Things such as power scaling, the future of the story, and even the growth of some characters who have this innate ability. So with all that in mind, I want to talk about how I believe this can be crucial for the growth of both Luffy and Zoro to hit that next level of power, and how Shanks is perfect for this. So when talking about Conquerors Haki and its evolution throughout the series, from what we know, it starts off as some innate ability that is unlocked when characters are put into highly stressful situations, when their backs are against the wall. Examples being Luffy at both Amazon Lily and Marineford, Ace as a kid during Luffy's flashback, Doflamingo's moment when he awakened this during his flashback story, and after confirmation of Zoro now having Conquerors Haki, I think you can also argue this for his case during his fight against Kaku at Enies Lobby. Later on, after training with Rayleigh during the time skip, we see Luffy now has the fundamentals of Haki down and seemingly Conquerors mastered, at least from what we knew at the time based on the demonstration Rayleigh gave. But here we are now on the Onigashima rooftop in Wano, where we get the big reveal of its uses in combat, and this is coming after us seeing previous uses of this without our knowledge of it at the time. We are even told by Kaido himself that there are a handful of individuals in the world who are capable of doing this. And well, like many of you, I think we can all agree that one of these individuals is obviously Shanks. So when discussing Shanks and Conquerors Haki before chapter 1010, there was a lot of speculation going on that whenever we got to the arc where Luffy and Shanks would finally reunite with each other, it would also be when we finally explored more into finding out what Advanced Conquerors was. And rightfully so when you look at the pattern of how the story has gone since Whole Cake Island, where we then discover now where Luffy is diving into learning more about Advanced Observation Haki during his fight with Katakuri, then proceeding into Act 2 of Wano where Luffy begins to learn about Advanced Armament from Hyogoro. So unless you were already on the boat that we were going to dive more into Advanced Conquerors this arc, then it only made sense to expect it in a later arc, most likely with Shanks, considering he is the first character who we've actually got to see use this ability in the story. While we have dived a little deeper into it during Luffy's fight against Kaido right now, I still believe we can learn more. I still believe we can get that expectation of learning more about this from Shanks. Now yes, while Luffy has figured out how to tap into this new form of Advanced Conquerors, I still feel that he has only scratched the surface of this, and I think it can at least be considered that he is still nowhere near having this same level of control or understanding of this ability as somebody like Kaido right now, Whitebeard and Roger back in the day, potentially Rocks himself, considering that he was in that group of people that Kaido saw behind Luffy. Basically people who we can all consider have mastered this ability at this point in the story. I think we can at least consider that Luffy isn't there yet. I mean, he did just learn Advanced Armament in the previous act, and I'm not even too sure if he has completely mastered that ability yet, considering at least that that's the impression I have with that line he said back in 1010 about the hit still being too shallow when having his flashbacks on his training with Hyogoro, teaching him Ryuo. And maybe you can even add the part where some chapters ago when he was freeing Yamato from her wrist bombs, he took a brief moment to concentrate when using the ability. We also know that Luffy is still having issues with overdoing it with his Haki, inefficiently using it and tiring himself out. And yes, while that is the case with Gear 4th specifically, I am still curious if this new advanced form of Conquerors can still fall in line with that. If Luffy, let's say, is using too much of it all at once over a prolonged period of time, and imagining the massive drain that his Haki would have if he did this. And we already saw how that pretty much turned out with him using Advanced Armament with Gear 4th. So with that in mind, assuming that there isn't another kind of new power reveal that happens during this fight, I can easily see when Shanks comes into the story that this will be when he opens up to all the different ways that this advanced form of Haki can be used. just spitballing ideas here, but maybe he can give Luffy some kind of advice on how to use the Haki more efficiently, maybe make the Haki flow easier for it to be used at its max potential, or maybe even teach Luffy or give him more ideas on how to create more devastating techniques. And what comes to mind about this is back when Shanks walked onto Whitebeard's ship and was using Conquerors Haki, where he was knocking all these dudes out, but even somehow physically cracking parts of the ship from just walking on it. So maybe Shanks could even help Luffy incorporate some kind of long distance attacks, I'm assuming, where he'd be able to injure opponents without having to physically touch them or even get too close to them. And I'm mostly thinking of Blackbeard when I say this because we all know that he's potentially Luffy's final fight in the story, at least final fight amongst pirates, unless of course you're thinking maybe that role is reserved for Kid. But I say Blackbeard because of the Yami Yami fruit and how once he can get a hold of you, he sucks away your devil fruit powers, and we saw how that turned out when him and Luffy encountered each other back at Impel Down. So in that particular fight, I think it would be cool to see if Luffy did have something in his arsenal that didn't require him to have to physically get up and close with Blackbeard, at least not at all times during that fight. And of course, I'm speaking on this assuming that at some point throughout this, Luffy will at least attempt to use Gear 4th against Blackbeard, because as you all know, Gear 4th is both a combination of his Haki and his devil fruit, and all of Luffy's movesets are generally involving like some kind of punch where he physically has to get up and close with you, which based on Blackbeard's Yami Yami no Mi heavily favors giving him that kind of advantage in a fight. But I feel like I've talked enough about Luffy right now, and I kind of want to move on to the main reason that inspired the idea for this video, and that is on the idea of Zoro learning more about Conquerors Haki from Shanks. Because guys, if I'm being honest, I personally believe that Zoro has more to gain from learning something from Shanks than even Luffy. Now, I'm not saying Luffy has little to nothing to gain from learning about Conquerors from Shanks. I in fact believe both characters will take another significant jump in power once they learn more about this technique, but I would just argue that Zoro can learn more from Shanks than even Luffy. So to start, when comparing Zoro to Luffy, since the post time skip, Luffy was already ahead on the learning curve when it came to Conquerors. He has not only been aware of the fact that he has had this Haki thanks to his training with Rayleigh during the time skip, but was even able to use it on its fundamental level, that being when he knocks out the fodder. Whereas in the case for Zoro, we see Kaido acknowledges him having this trait as well, except Zoro has no idea about this. So based off that dialogue, it seems like Zoro isn't even able to activate this at will yet. At least not like how Luffy can when he turns it on and off like a light switch when using it. And now Luffy has taken yet another step going into the advanced form of this. So with Conquerors Haki alone, Zoro still has much that he needs to learn, at least more than Luffy at this point. But for Zoro, the benefits don't stop at Haki alone, and the other big benefit I am talking about is swordsmanship. Now, I know some people may think that it'll only be a Zoro and Ben Beckman interaction or matchup when we get to the red-haired pirates in the story, and for good reason, because when looking at the parallels between the two, such as both of the first mates, Ben Beckman's Viva card states that he's the anchor of the crew, kind of similar to Zoro, both have similar personalities based on what we know. I get the reasoning, and maybe we will get some kind of interaction between these two characters. I firmly believe that. But I think Zoro benefits more from Shanks in terms of progressing in strength with not only his Haki, but also his swordsmanship. Now, I bring this up because this ties perfectly into not only Zoro's growth in strength to help Luffy and his crew, but even ties into Zoro's dream of becoming the world's strongest swordsman. Remember, Shanks is a swordsman as well, and not just your average run-of-the-mill pirate or marine who just has a sword for a weapon. Shanks, as far as we know, is the only person in the entire story of One Piece to be capable of going toe-to-toe with Mihawk on, from what we can tell, to be even ground, with both characters being able to walk away alive and no long-lasting damage from what we know of. During the time skip, Zoro learned how to utilize Haki in his training with Mihawk. Shanks is a Haki master, and once again, being the first person in the series we see using Conquerors, I just think that it would be really cool to see Zoro learning to take his Haki as well as his swordsmanship to the next level from the man who is regarded as Mihawk's rival. And not only that, but what better way to gauge how close Zoro is to Mihawk at this point in the story by seeing how he matches up against Shanks. And I'm not saying that these two are gonna have like some kind of serious fight to the death or anything like that. I'm just thinking of maybe a very brief clash for Zoro to measure the gap in strength between them, and how it can be another learning experience for Zoro where Shanks shows him all these different ways he can implement his swordsmanship with his Haki. Or maybe if Zoro just gets some new ideas for his fighting style after seeing what Shanks can do. To better visualize what I'm talking talking about, I think a perfect example of this would be seeing Shanks' moveset in the Pirate Warriors games, where we see him using the black and red Haki lightning in his fighting style that is really similar to the Roger and Whitebeard clash during the Odin flashback. And based off the reveal in chapter 1010, it just makes so much sense for Zoro to add this to his arsenal, whether he comes up with his own new techniques or honestly just steals one of Shanks's, as hilarious as that would be. Similar to how early in the rooftop battle when Zoro revealed that he stole Kinemon's fire cutting technique, so I can definitely see him adding something similar to those movesets if he gets a better grasp or understanding of Conquerors Haki. I don't know, there's just a million things that can happen in this story. Maybe it can be a scenario where Shanks is giving Luffy and Zoro advice on how to just improve their abilities off of what they already know. If you've seen other series, something like Whis helping Goku and Vegeta become stronger in Dragon Ball, or Bisky with Gon and Killua in Hunter x Hunter, just something where the more experienced character helps two of our guys progress in power. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I just personally like the idea on where this can go for both Luffy and Zoro and how it can take them to that next level for the end game of the story. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this in the comment section. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Remember to sub if you want to see more of this kind of content, and have a blessed day to all of you who came through. Thanks for watching the video.